All right, so let's go ahead and get the housekeeping out the way. This is my Patreon, patreon.com/AJ the cheat code. I give free content on there, but if you're looking to do a deep dive and really get into multifamily commercial real estate, then I would recommend getting the early adopter subscription, which starts at $5. So let's get right into it. First thing you need to realize and understand, your cap rate is super imperative when it comes down to these properties. This only applies to your apartment complexes that are 5 doors and above. So your cap rate, the percentage of a commercial property's value that represents its NOI, your net operating income. Again, your NOI, they're only going to look at this if it's a 5-unit apartment complex or higher. Anything that's lower than that is considered residential, and it's based off of comparable sales. I need y'all to really understand that. So my cap rate at my 8-unit apartment is 7.25%, and I can show y'all that on my appraisal PDF here. So my appraisal PDF, they'll send these out once you do your due diligence. The concluded capitalization rate at my 8-unit is 7.25%, right? So what does that mean? What it means is now I need to be asking myself, okay, how much is my dollar worth? Because a dollar, as y'all know it, is completely different in the world of real estate. And I'll show you now. So $1 divided by your cap rate, which is 7.25%, equals how much the dollar is worth in real estate. So I wasn't the best in math class. I graduated college with a 2.95, so y'all bear with me. Those that were in my classes, y'all know all about me. So 1 divided by 0.0725, that gives me a dollar amount of $13.79, which is huge. That's how much $1 is worth in my building. So if you look at the ways that you can increase the value of the building, you either do one of the two or both of these. So you got reduce expenses and increase revenue. Boom. So 2 ways you can increase the value: reduce expenses, increase revenue. Those are the main 2 ways. Now, obviously, if you do renovations and stuff like that, it might add here and there, but these are the 2 main things that your appraisal value is going to be based off of, right? They're going to look at your NOI, and the only way you can really bring that NOI up is reducing expenses or increasing your revenue. So, boom. If I look at this $13.79 valuation, right, I can easily increase the value of my property by increasing my rents, reducing expenses, right? The way I can do that is I can cut my own grass for every 2 weeks. I'm not saying to do that when you scale high and you have hundreds of units, but you can do it now. I'm at 12 units right now, so I cut my own grass bi-weekly, and just doing that, right? So I have contractors that would charge me $50 for every 2 weeks, right? Or landscapers. $50 to me equals $689.05 if you multiply 13.79 by 50, because again, that's how much a dollar's worth in your building, or in my building in this instance. So that's $689.05. And now I gotta multiply that by, so there's 52 weeks in a year. So I gotta multiply that by 26. What did I say, $689.50? So just getting the grass cut, I'm missing out on $17,927 in valuation increase. That's extremely astronomical if you look at it from that perspective. You have to look at a dollar completely different. You gotta look at your expenses completely different in real estate, especially commercial real estate. So that's that. Now, at my specific property, which was built in 1973, the previous owner didn't renovate the whole property. A lot of it had deferred maintenance, and he wasn't taking care of everything. He took care of some of the units. I'm not gonna, bash him completely. He was cash flowing, because again, like, he probably had 0 debt in the deal. He was probably just taking home a check every other month. So those are good deals. As long as you don't have huge capital expenses, like, you know, you got to get your plumbing and electrical. I did have to do the roof, but I got concessions on that. Again, I got the property at 940 grand. He wanted $1 million from it. I was able to negotiate that at the table, and I'll go in another video on how I did that and how I do my negotiations. But you want properties that have deferred maintenance. You want some meat still on the bone. Now, if I look at this specific deal that I have, the weighted averages of the rent were $825. $825 weighted average. I'm gonna have to erase some of this. So that was the weighted average of rent, right? That he had it. I brought the rents up to, once I did my renovations and went into units, did my screening on specific tenants, got all the messy stuff out of there, got the messy tenants out of there that were destroying stuff, got the messy tenants out of there that had bug infestations, a lot of nasty shit. But when you look at the money, it's worth it. It's completely worth it, because you can get rid of bugs by just calling the contractor and writing a check. I want y'all to know that. Don't let bugs disincentivize you to go make $1 million. Don't allow it to happen. So, boom, $825 rent weighted average. I increased my rents to $1,613. Now, once I did the market averages, I looked at the square footage, I looked at what's in the unit, I got washer dryer hookups, always important. If you find a deal with washer dryer hookups, that is a killer. You're gonna make a ton of money with that, because people want their washer and dryers in their units. They also have private balconies, they have private patios, they have a front balcony, they have a front patio, right? Private parking. So all that, once you put all that together, I was able to come with a total of 1,613 when I did my weighted averages in the area. And once you look at that increase, let's do the math. So $1 is worth $13.79, right? So the value I was able to add to this building, when I do 1613, take away 825, I added $788 in revenue per unit, right? Per unit. So I multiply that 788 by 1379, because that's how much $1 worth. That gives me $10,866.52, right? Per unit. This is an 8-unit building. Now I gotta multiply that by 8. I multiply it by 8, I get $86,932.16. Huge, because now there's 12 months in a year. I multiply that number by 12. What do I get? $1,043,000, $185.92. I think I said it wrong. $1,043,185.92. There you go. That's how much value you're adding. I didn't even add the reduced expenses. I never even added, you know, what they would add on top of it for the renovations that I did at the unit. I got a brand new roof, right? I'm renovating every single unit. I still have 1.5 units to turn, but they're gonna be turned within a couple of months. So that's gonna be my weighted, like that's the value that is gonna be estimated after I stabilize this whole building, right? So the way that you add it up is you do 1613, right? That's my weighted averages of rents. And I multiply that by 8. So I got $12,904 a month that's coming in from this building. And that's not even including like late rent. Y'all, if you know a tenant's gonna pay the rent, but they end up paying a little late, and they're constantly on time paying late, I'm not saying late rents aren't bad, but you also have to look at it from a monetary perspective too. The tenants in Norfolk, Virginia, or in Virginia in general, they have to pay 10% of what their total rent is. So that's $163.30 for me, for this specific building. You do $161.30 and you multiply that by 1379, you get $2,224.32 for them paying late. That's how much value you're adding to the building. That's how much value you're adding to the building. Sometimes people pay late occasionally, but if it persists, obviously you have to take control of that and make sure that you're weeding out the right people and the right tenants. You don't want any bad eggs that aren't paying your rent. I'm saying if they pay a couple of days late and I know they're gonna pay, that's $2,224 extra in value after it's all said and done at the end of the year when you look at your NOI. That's how I look at it, right? So boom, you're gonna do 1613 times 8, that's 12,904. I just showed y'all that number. You multiply that by 12, right? Multiply that by 12, you get $154,848. That's gross. So that's gross. So I got, because I'm going to show y'all how y'all can extrapolate that $1 million valuation add. So $154,848, 0 cents. Now I just got to subtract everything that is going to bring this number down. So I got my insurance, right? I got insurance. I got property taxes. Your appraisal is going to look at vacancy, right? They're going to look at a 5% vacancy. They usually add that on their appraisal. Maintenance, you want to add 2.5% maintenance on there. So what I want to do, property taxes at $8,600. It's right around there. My insurance, $4,800. Now, when you look at your vacancy, you got 5% vacancy, so 10% of this is 15,400. And let me just calculate this. So vacancies, they're gonna hit you for $7,742.40. You're subtracting all this, by the way. And then last but not least, you got your maintenance. So maintenance is going to be 2.5% of your NOI, well, of your gross income. So 8 times 0.25. So that's going to be $3,871.20. So once I subtract all of this, right, then I'm going to really be able to get down to the nitty gritty and show y'all how much money you can make from this. And honestly, once you got those connections, it's pretty simple. You just got to go to the lender and be like, hey, this is how much value I added to my property. This is how much I want to do in a cash out refi, which is a non-taxable event. I'll go into further detail on that in a moment, but let's get to it. So $154,848 minus $8,600 minus $4,800 minus $7,742.40 minus $3,871.20. So out the door, it's $129,834.40, right? That's not including late fees. That's not including any other material costs that I may have added to the property or value that I added to the property. That's just a straight up number when I subtract everything that's gonna reduce this NOI. So boom, I have a total of $129,834.40, right? Once I do that, this is just one building, by the way. This is one building. Once I do that, then I divide that by my NOI. I mean, not my NOI, I divide that by my cap rate. So I divide that by 0.0725. Once I divide it by 0.0725, 7.25%, that's how much my building is worth now. That's how much the building is worth now. And I really need y'all to understand, like, that can happen in a year, 2 years. Boom. You just added damn near $1 million of value to one building. to one building. Now you won't be able to take out that full $1 million of value. You still gotta have some equity in the deal. Let me erase some of this real quick. Hope y'all are catching along, because I gotta erase this so y'all can be able to see it. So now what happens? So now that I have $1,790,819.31, guess what I get to do with it? I get to go to the bank and I get to ask them. I'm like, hey, I'm looking to do a cash out refi. I got my NOI ready to go. Send your appraiser out. Got my NOI ready to go. Let's do this thing. It's going to be a non-taxable event because it's debt. You're just essentially redoing your debt service at your lender or your bank, something like that, right? So what lenders typically do, they're going to do a 80% LTV, which is your loan to value, right? So you have to do 80% times your valuation, because it's loan to value. That's what I'm saying, that you got to keep some equity in the deal. The reason this isn't 100% because you want to keep equity in the deal, right? Keep 20% equity in the deal. You can even lower this, just depending on what your plans are in terms of your investments, what your lineup is. If you want to get more property, if you want to invest in your businesses, invest in your 401k, invest in some sort of mutual fund, things of that nature. Then you're going to pay close attention to this. Let's say you max it out at 80% LTV, right? So 80% LTV, 1.79 million times 80%. That's 1.432 million. That's 1.432 million, right? So you got 1.432 million, and I'm going to subtract how much the building is worth, what I got the building for, which was 940 grand. So that gives you $492,000. $492,655.44. I add my equity back into the deal. So 40, put about 20% down on here. So I add 188. It's just math at the end of the day, y'all. I had 188,000 to this 492. And that gives me a grand total of $680,655.44. Boom. So what does that number mean? That number is how much you can go to the bank and extract from this deal once you do your cash out refi. Now, mind you, you still have to make sure you meet the debt service ratio requirements, which typically is like 1.25. They want you to make $1.25 per every dollar that you spend, things of that nature. So, $680,655.44 will get wired directly to you. If it's approved, will get wired directly to you, debt-free. Debt-free. You can now take this 680 grand and go put it and flush it into another property. Just like that. Go put it and flush it into another property. And then this property, which is already stabilized, meaning that it has all the tenants in it already, it has all the renovations. You'll have minor issues here and there that you have to go fix, but it's stabilized. It's producing income still. The NOI is going to go down because your expenses are higher, but, your gross income is going to go down a little bit. Now, it's going to basically you're taking a sacrifice to this building to scale higher, right? You want to put this building, now I'm probably going to go get a 24 unit. I want to go get a 32 unit with this same money right here. And I don't have to spend any tax on this because it's debt. Don't allow, the narrative and the stigma of debt to deter you from making deals like this. If the debt is making you some money, then you need to go try to leverage, and don't over leverage yourself. Make sure you're in that sweet spot where you can do something just like this. So I have a 4 unit and an 8 unit. The 4 unit I've already have done a home equity line of credit on that 4 unit. So home equity line of credit isn't too much different than this. It's just another avenue that you can use for a residential multifamily property as opposed to a commercial multifamily, right? But the one catch about that is you have to live in one of the units. That's the one catch. So this is just a straightforward way to understand how you can extract money from commercial real estate and the importance of why you have to understand what your dollar is worth in these buildings. Y'all understand dollars, how they're worth in the general public, but you got to understand what a dollar is worth in real estate. And $1 being worth $13.79, mind you, every other property is not going to always have the same cap rate. You have to make sure you're doing the math on this and doing your own underwriting. But that $1 can be able to generate this amount of money, which can be life-changing. That can be life-changing for some people. If you make the right investment on that, then you can make like 180% return. As a matter of fact, let's go look at it. Let's go look at it, y'all. Let's go look at it. I'm gonna calculate exactly how much my return is on this. So you got, I put 188,000. Now mind you, I spent a little bit more than 188,000 because I had the renovations, but I'm just gonna give y'all some general insight. So I spent 188,000 and I made $655.44. I want to know what my rate of return is. So my rate of return is a grand total of 262.05% return. Insane. Now, let's say I get a 262.05 return again on 680 grand. Let's do the math, because I want y'all to really understand this. I'm trying to give y'all some $1 million cheat codes, but y'all gotta listen and y'all gotta implement. And y'all gotta be hungry and ambitious, you know what I'm saying? Go against the status quo and stuff. Y'all know the vibes. So, if I had a 262.05% return on $680,655.44. Let's say I washed, rinsed, and repeated this, then that means that my gain is going to be $2,464,352.61. You can't make it up. And then you just keep rinsing and repeating. It can be every year, or it can be every 1.5 years, or every 2 years. You rinse and repeat, and you make sure that you're putting this money into the right investment so you can get those returns that you need. But long story short, that's a pretty much straightforward example of what a dollar means in real estate, and your cap rate, your dollar amount, your NOI. I went over LTV. I went over how you can extract, money out of your deals and how to force valuation in these properties, which is all super imperative. I appreciate y'all for listening and joining in on this content. If y'all are new here, my Patreon is patreon.com/AJTheCheatCode. Again, I do give out free content, but if you're looking to go do a deep dive into multifamily real estate and you're looking to get into it seriously, I would check out the early adopter subscription, which starts at $5. Again, this is early. I just started the Patreon. So as it goes on along, let's say I get more members, then the price could be subject to increase. So I would say get in now. I'm super serious about giving y'all content and giving y'all $1 million cheat codes. Today, I'm doing this one for free. And as we get down the line, I'll be going over some of my personal numbers. I'll show y'all how much I've made with these properties in real time. And I'm looking forward to doing that with y'all. I'll see y'all in the next video.